every time he adds a 2.5, every time he adds a 5, he comes home to me saying, guess what I deadlifted today, Dad? And I think if you're not talking to your kids about deadlifting, then I don't know what you're doing.
Level up. Hey, level up. Yeah, 'cause I'm getting louder. Hey, level up.
Hey guys, welcome to the Turf, powered by D1. We have Clark Lea with us, the coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores, coming off a huge season, beating #1 Alabama. And man, he has a great pass and a great coaching experience to be able to share with us. His stops at Notre Dame, Syracuse, Wake Forest, UCLA, and also played a little baseball back in the day.
Yeah.
Excited to jump into that. But man, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
It's great to be here.
Man, it's awesome. Hey, Clark not only has been a great figure in this Vanderbilt community and the Nashville community, but also in my family. My son plays at Vanderbilt University, and so we get to talk a lot about parenthood and lessons and coaching all along. So I'd love to jump into some of that.
Yeah, I think it'd be appropriate for me to start by saying, obviously I followed you in high school, and so always looked up to you and wore the number 35 because I wanted to play like you. And I don't know that I never crossed that threshold. Obviously, it wasn't quite Will Bartholomew, but it's a cool thing to be able to sit with you here later on in life to know that that was our relationship back in the day. I was a freshman, you were a senior, and I was just trying to figure out life.
Man, you still want to talk to me?
Well, you did something right, I guess.
Yeah. Man, those were great days. So you played baseball and football in high school.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to go the baseball route. And I'm thinking all these parents out there and these kids right now, you got a kid who's good at two different sports. Like, what made you go to baseball over football? Because you ended up flipping.
I think at the time I was listening to myself at 6'2". I'm 5'11" and a half probably, and I probably lost a quarter of an inch as I've gotten older. But I was 220 pounds, and I just I was playing nose guard and tight end, and honestly, I was trying to project a career. I felt like being a professional athlete's what I was called to do.
Yeah.
And I thought my best chance to do that was being a catcher. And so that was really what set the course for me, was like, hey, this is how I'm going to leave my mark in the world. And, God had other plans for me. But, that was especially the 2 years in college, those were important years for me.
Yeah.
This was before the transfer portal, and yet I found my way to 3 schools.
Now that's like normal.
It's normal, but back then that was just a young person in search of himself. I really, I wasn't having success in baseball. I think if I would have gone back to 2000, I was experiencing the yips a little bit. There were some things that were going on mentally that were keeping me from performing and accelerating as a player. We just didn't talk about that stuff at the time, but I was having trouble receiving the ball, throwing the ball back to the pitcher, and sport really became kind of miserable for me. Not because of any of the environmental context for the game, but it was all internal to me. And I think the point at which I left Belmont, it was Dave Jarvis, who's the coach there, who's still there. It's been such an incredible influence on me.
Yeah.
We sat down and had a conversation about, hey, I'm missing football and I think I want to pursue this. And he said, you got 4 years to do it and you don't want to have any regrets. And so that set me on a course to find a football program that would take me in. I wanted to find a really good school. And I'd gotten to the point where I realized that sport wasn't going to become, a professional athlete wasn't my calling, but sport can always be a healthy part of my growth in my life.
Yeah.
And that's where I landed at Vanderbilt.
Man, you hit so many good nuggets there. I want to dive into, because I think of my kids, I think of like so many athletes that we see on the turf in here. Like they come in here and they might have, you called it the yips, they might have like a mental barrier. I'd love for you to maybe I don't know if you can go back to that moment. What broke you through?
Again, both baseball environments I was in were really healthy and formative to me.
Yeah.
And I had roles in both teams, and I think I was a good teammate. The reality is, I don't know that we were talking about the yips at that point. I don't know that we were talking about mental barriers. And so I just felt like my skills were degrading, and I was kind of had lost the ability to play. And so the true answer to that was, there was a blessing in it for me, because it allowed me to kind of think about, all right, what is it that I want out of this? Where do I want to go with this? If I take the transaction out of the game, meaning it's not about what the sport's going to give to me, but what am I going to give to the sport and what am I going to learn through it?
Right.
That delivered me to a really great mindset at Vanderbilt. And, along the way, just like you, I'm sure, I mean, coaches have made the difference for me. Whether it was in high school, my baseball career, and certainly in college. I mean, it's been a huge part of my development as a man, as a player. And I just happened to drop in at a time where Vanderbilt was going through transition, and Bobby Johnson had gotten the job.
Yeah, that's right, Bobby.
And those guys, they were looking for a hard charger who, they weren't as worried about the athleticism. So I found a little role and a niche for myself at Vanderbilt, and it all kind of lined up for me. But without those struggles, I don't know that I would have ever been able to appreciate the experience that I gained. And I was not a great player. I played a role. I'm really proud of the relationships I've built around the game. I think when I encounter this now, whether it's in recruiting or in coaching the team, be it mental barriers, a lot of times, and I think this is important for parents too, because I'm a parent also. So I experience youth sports. One thing that I think we have to be conscious of is the pressure we create around performance may, in the short term, lead to results.
Right.
In the long term, I think it can really damage relationship with the game. And so I was a baseball player that was playing 90 games in the summer back in the day, and it felt like life and death.
Yeah.
Half the battle, especially for someone who's going to sustain a career, is
gotta enjoy it.
You got to have fun.
Gotta enjoy that.
That's the number one thing. Yep, you got it.
It's so funny because when you talk about that, like it's one of the reasons why I started D1, is because what I found was when I was on the field and competing, sometimes I would get caught up in the anxiety of the moment or feel like, hey, if I didn't make this block perfect, that's, the critics would come. But what I found in the weight room and on this turf, I found like this is where I felt alive, where it was like, man, it was just a matter of effort.
No.
If I give the effort, I get the result. And it's like, man, I just want to be in that type of environment that's uplifting and positive. It's a great point, though. It's a great, because sports have shifted completely since we were playing high school ball.
Yeah, there's, there are hopes and dreams wrapped up in everything, and it's hard not to. I think again, as a parent, as a player, like you want to believe in your abilities, you want to believe in your child's abilities, and you want to give them every opportunity, if they're passionate about it, to find the avenue to pursue it as long as they possibly can. And yet, again, if it's not their choice, if that begins to suck the fun out of it, they're not gonna be able to stay in the marathon. But the training part, to me, this has always been the sacred part of sport to me, is what the work done that's not on the field, the work done that's moving the weights, the confidence you gain. Like I say this all the time. It's like, man, if I can just put 2 little 2.5s on both sides, I get 5 pounds more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every time you put those little 2.5 on, you feel like you're taking ground.
Yeah.
I think that's been such an important part of, my experience from, again, high school into college, in a place where I was able to lead and find a role. Was like, I'm going to be so good in the off season, and whatever my talents allow for me to be in the season, I'll always have a leadership voice within the team.
It's awesome. I love that. So I'm going to go kind of post playing days. Like, who inspired you to get involved in coaching? Because obviously, there's so many great things you can do around sports. I mean, I parlayed this into a gym business career, right? And so there's so many great halo benefits you talked about giving to the sport. I'd love to know kind of like who inspired you to be a coach. Was this the trajectory you thought,
You know, it's interesting because I think what I was in search of was just belonging, and I kind of viewed achievement as belonging. So
Right.
I wanted to, I love the idea of wearing colors and a logo and being a part of something. And it felt like, my tenacity as a player could be rewarded in coaching. It felt like the communication skills that I built could be rewarded in coaching. I had ideas and thoughts, even as a player at Vanderbilt, about like what I would want to do and how I'd want it to look.
That's awesome.
And I don't, in some ways, I mean, I haven't deviated too far. I've learned a lot on the run, but those were the things to me that were exciting. I think anytime you talk about, be it building a business or building a team, it's how do you align the pieces? How do you achieve alignment? How do you get people inspired to bring their creative energy and amplify what it is that you're a part of?
Yeah.
Those things are like, I mean, and when you fold in personal relationships, for me, the teaching aspect of football, and then the fundamental technical, growth, like that's like the secret sauce to me, that like whatever my job is, if I'm doing one of those three things in a day, I'm fulfilled. And no matter how hard it gets, I'm anxious to get back the next day. So all of it called me in. I felt like I had skills that I could grow in coaching, but the truth is I had no expectation on what a career would deliver. And I tried twice when I was early in to land high school jobs. That was, I wanted to coach. I wanted to team build. And I was in LA at UCLA at the time. I applied at a school called Harvard Westlake there. And fortunately for me, they had just hired a young up and comer, and they weren't going to do another one that was going to leave them after a year.
Yeah.
And so they said no. And then I applied to MBA. And I think at the time it felt like a homecoming to me, but the universe had other plans, and it wasn't time for me to come back. And so from that point, again, in the entry level, I really was able to experience a career that has been so, it's been beyond anything that I could ever imagine. And yet it challenges me every day.
So you got 3 kids under 12. I'd love to know what your philosophy is on training and getting in the gym. One of your kids trains at D1.
That's right. Yeah. We, first of all, I'm a believer in training. I don't think there's an age limitation on that, because it's discipline.
Yeah.
I do believe that the younger your child, the more they need to be in the hands of expert. And that's why I hit you up and said, help me out. But I wanted for my oldest to, and he's been in now, I think, for a couple of years. So right around 10 years old, we got him involved, 10, 11. And his confidence has grown so much, just like we talked about on, every time he adds a 2.5, every time he adds a 5, he comes home to me saying, guess what I deadlifted today, Dad? And I think, if you're not talking to your kids about deadlifting, then I don't know what you're doing. But no, to me, it's so now, this is how children are. Mara, my daughter, wants to go to D1. Baby Jack wants to go. They can't wait for their time to go to D1, because they see his confidence, they see the coaches he's working with, and they want a part of it. They want a piece of it. But yeah, I think the discipline you instill, learning deferred gratification, setting goals and working towards goals. I think physical exertion is so important. I don't think we can't take that for granted. And sometimes in team sport, I've watched varying levels of practice along the way. Sometimes they're getting the physical exertion, sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
But, I think it's so healthy for young people to learn the basic movements, build the foundation. And I don't know that there's we'll start our kids around 10, but as long as they're in the right hands, I think it's a great thing for young people.
Yeah, I think it's so powerful when you watch your kid, the light bulb goes off and go, hey, because of the work I'm doing, I can become something different.
That's right. I am in control.
I am in control.
And I can influence this in these ways. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you do to train now? You staying in shape these days?
Yeah,
Coaching and
I do. It's important to me because the season is, it's high demand, and
yeah.
we ask so much of our players. I want to be a model for them in terms of exercising discipline day in, day out. And so I've got my routines. Right now it's, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning. We'll go at 6:30, 7:30 on Saturday. I give myself another hour there, with our strength coach. And it's me, my chief of staff, and the strength coach. And it's not like, buys and tries. I mean, it's
getting after it.
all kinds of, I mean, I don't know where he comes up with the things he has us do, but we're pushing sleds, we're throwing kettlebells, we're moving med balls, we're doing all of it. A lot of mobility. He's adapted. I've had some back issues, so he makes sure that I'm not compromising that, but I'm strengthening around it.
It's awesome.
I'm probably in the best shape I've been in my life right now, and I couldn't have said that in January. I was still training. I felt strong. I felt mobile. And I think as you get old, it's like that feeling of getting out of bed, and does it take you a few minutes to actually get going?
Yeah.
But I've complemented that with some habits and routines outside of training. I think that have put me in a position right now to, what we say as a team is to play 17 games. We want to play 17 games, and to do that, we have to all take care of ourselves in that respect.
Yeah, it's good. You got to lead by example.
That's right.
Who are those guys that maybe as you got into it, maybe a coach that you can think of that maybe like poured into you or gave you a little nugget of wisdom?
Well, I mean, when you go back to, again, my high school experience was so formative, and
Ricky Bowers,
go
on.
David Brown. I mean, Ed Caudell, all those guys, Tom Moore. And I didn't know at the time. You're not thinking about it in terms of how these guys are shaping me, but you're experiencing it. And I can remember growth, like growing through their systems. Jamie Redmond in the weight room at NBA back when that was in the little dungeon there.
Yeah.
Those are important foundational parts. But once I got into college, I mean, to name the entire staff at Vanderbilt, Bobby Johnson showed me what patience was. He showed me how to coach the team, not blame the team. I mean, in my time at Vanderbilt, as the head coach, I have been, kind of bludgeoned to the point at times where you're forced to decide, are you going to take responsibility for this, or are you going to blame other people for this?
Yeah.
And I learned that from Bobby Johnson. It was always, hey, we're going to get this done. This is on me. This is how we move it forward. John Sisk was our strength coach.
He's John Sisk, man. He was awesome.
Cisco is the greatest. We still end texts and calls with love you. I mean, those relationships. But once I got into actually coaching, I've had the luxury of having really a diverse experience. I've lived all over the country and seen it done a lot of different ways. I think every stop you're learning a little bit more about who you are, knowing that this doesn't work if it doesn't start with your unique voice and being true to who you are as a person. But like you talk about learning from, in that first UCLA staff, Carl Durrell was the head coach. Tom Cable was the offensive line coach, offensive coordinator. He's been an NFL head coach. Brian Schneider was our special teams coordinator. He was a young guy at the time. Now he's, been decades worth of NFL experience. John Embry was our tight ends coach. Embo's, again, been a head coach in college, a tight end coach in the NFL. Eric Bieniemy was our running backs coach. EB, won Super Bowls as a coordinator. And those guys, watching them work every day was a masterclass. I went to South Dakota State after that. John Stiglmeyer, now retired, built that program into what we know it is today in the FCS level.
Yeah.
At the time I was there, we were transitioning from Division II. And, on the fields at UCLA, like anything goes in terms of behavior, language. It was a raucous environment. At South Dakota State, Coach Stig's expectation was that we weren't going to use profanity. We were going to allow our players, we were going to challenge them, but allow them to keep their dignity. I mean, he had clear boundaries that we had to operate in.
Yeah.
And I learned more from him, in those 2 years. And he'll come back every year to fall camp, hang out with us for a week. I went back to UCLA and was with Rick Neuheisel. Rick Neuheisel taught me how to give a campus tour. He taught me how to recruit. Super smart, really good communicator. Again, we were different personalities, but he got me out of he had me singing karaoke. That's not something that I typically will do. But I worked with Dave Clawson twice. Dave is a program builder. Dave is the smartest guy I know. He's become such a resource to me in this build because he's experienced what I've gone through. Scott Schaefer at Syracuse was a guy that taught me how to blend family and football. Showed me that it was okay to have your kids around, and again, taught me how to be a parent while I was also trying to be a great coach. And then Brian Kelly, I learned more from BK in 4 years than I have at any other point in my career.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that we're very different in terms of personality, and our motivations are different, but we align on so many of the important things that watching him operate later in his career, where he had to make an adjustment from a 4-8 season to get Notre Dame back where it needed to be. I pulled more lessons from that. He's super smart, super systems driven, and a good person. And so, again, I basically went through every stop along the way.
Yeah.
Everywhere I went, I picked up something. There's really good in every one of those people.
You got to learn from all those different experiences.
That's right.
Your own.
And you learn who you are.
Yeah.
What is it that's important to me, and how am I going to bring my unique voice into this and make it effective?
I'd love to know, and I think a lot of people out there would love to know, when you look in, we talked about the training, this environment, you've been a lot of different stops, all of a sudden you're at Vanderbilt and you get to build your own thing.
Yeah.
This is your thing. So it's when you started thinking about the training that's going to happen at Vanderbilt University, what were the ingredients you wanted?
It's interesting because I think what I thought was important when I came in has changed a little bit. I think on the front end, you think about building a culture, and you're really looking to add things on to people to create the culture you want.
Right.
And that's all good. We still message important things in our program, but I've flipped that, through the struggle that we experienced in the first few years, is this gradual understanding that it's not about what I add on, it's what I put at the center. How do I build the soul of the program around the thing that is most important to us, and that's playing good football.
Right.
I can't be a celebrity coach. I can't be the personality that just brings the room down every time. That's just not who I am. But football is really important to me, and winning is really important to me. And so, if I can make the focus on the mission for us is winning, developing people through the game of football. Let's make our passion, our love for this game first. When I engage as a teacher, I share passion. There's nothing more fun to me than getting in front of the classroom and teaching ball. So that's become kind of central. When you talk about the training part, we believe in training systems of recovery. That could be snap to snap, that could be series to series, that could be game to game.
Yeah.
You would have to ask the scientists to break down all the logic behind the systems. But what I wanted was a team that could play longer, harder than the opponent.
Gotcha.
And I knew that was going to be born in the effort that we put in the weight room. And so the training part of what we do has always been central. That's where you build the culture of your team.
Yeah.
And we have a really skilled coach in Robert Steiner that has really positioned our team to be what it is right now.
Yeah, fantastic strength coach, by the way. He does a great job, brings the juice.
That's right. He's got the balance because he's
Yeah.
he's packaged the right way. he's got the veneer of toughness, and those guys roll jujitsu in the weight room. They'll put the mats down and put their suits on and go at it. But he's smart and he cares about people. And I think for any coach, you have to have the toughness. You have to have the competence, because if you're not delivering something that moves someone forward, at some point you're going to fracture trust.
Yeah.
So the competence important, but the compassion part of it, I think he's mastered, and we're fortunate to have him.
That's awesome. I'd love for you to expand a little bit. Like, I was listening to one thing on you and just talking to Ty. Like, you talk a lot about not necessarily the outcome. Like, you talk about a lot about the journey and about doing it right. And I've watched, many years of Vanderbilt football, and it feels like, man, like things are just moving right. And so you're getting those outcomes.
Yeah.
I'd love for you maybe like expand on kind of how you're instilling that in the team and how you try to bring that out.
It's hard because, like we all as humans want the results now.
Right.
And it's challenging when, you're putting effort in but not seeing the results. Most people, their tolerance level for suffering, sacrifice, struggle only goes so far as they're rewarded for it.
Yeah.
I think we've asked for a high level of suffering, sacrifice, and struggle from our players and staff. And the beauty of it is we haven't deviated from that ask. That's what we call our team into every day. Those that aren't meant for the mission haven't sustained through. So there's this natural kind of peeling off of layers, and it doesn't make anyone bad. I mean, we have a very specific mission. We're trying to build a very specific program, but we've stayed true in our course and in our demand, and the team is shaped around that course, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I'm message this every day in some capacity. It's the marathon, not the sprint. It's understanding the runway, the little adjustment we can make now that'll be a big difference in a moment in November when we need it to be, and to be a team that recognizes the importance of the present, because that's how we impact, what comes next. Those are things that are, not just messaging, but it's really the structure of our team. It's how we set our schedule. It's the intentionality with which we train our team in practice. We say in our program, reps are gold. And that just means that we don't ever miss an opportunity to capitalize on a rep, so that we can move ourselves, just a little bit forward every day.
I'm going to take that one. Reps are gold.
Yeah.
More just to kind of wrap up your coaching career and kind of like just your whole progress here that you made there. Like, I'd love to maybe like take 10 years out, 15 years out, like you look back at this time, like what do you want to look back and say? What do you want to look back and go like, man, we did that. I love hearing the reps part. To me, I feel like you're building something so special.
Yeah.
And I'd love maybe just when you think 10 years down the road, what do you want to look back and see?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you saying that. We feel like it's special. I mean, it's very personal to us. It's very personal to me. And when things are personal, they can be challenging, and I think in so many ways, no different than a professional athlete. You pursue something for years and decades, and then you get there and you realize, like, this actually isn't what I thought it would be. I wanted to be a head coach, and I was in a career for, 16, 17 years chasing this. And then I get that seat and I think, man, I've made it. And I realized pretty quickly that I hadn't made it. And again, there was so much struggle involved in those early years and we're not above struggle now, but I really had to kind of step back and say, what do I want to say about this moment in 10 or 15 years? Because I'm not guaranteed. I came back to Vanderbilt to be the savior of the program. And I say that in a way that, like, it should sound like egotistical. That was the level of ego I had when I stepped into it.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be hard, but we inevitably microwave things in our mind. You could go from the starting point to the movie runs 80 minutes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the reality is like, oh my gosh,
yeah.
Had to learn quickly I couldn't do it on my own. Had to learn quickly that my job is not to carry message, it's to drive alignment. And I think being pushed to limits with respect to, not getting the results, having to stay committed, consistent, devoted to the vision has been formative to me. But most importantly, it said, okay, if I'm not guaranteed to save this program, if I'm not guaranteed that this is the last place that I ever work, what is to be said about my time here and the work we did? Mm-hmm. And I think what becomes important to me in those moments is the growth of each individual. Yeah. I get the opportunity to send forth, 120 guys every year that, are going to live with impact in the world. And I get to watch them grow through the sacrifice, through the struggle. And truthfully, most humans don't have the tolerance. The guys that have been in our program for 3 or 4 years, 5 years, most normal people would not have the tolerance that these guys have, and the faith and the devotion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really powerful group of people that have quietly gone about the work and have gotten to a point now where we have the chance to reach for the results. So I never want to lose sight on the impact I can have on the individual level. And I want to be proud that I've never changed. Maybe I've transformed, but I haven't changed from being someone who's going to care about the experience, the ecosystem, and kind of the eternal truths of team building. We want to be a place that still commits to those aspects.
So perfect segue. I gotta say, you hit me because my son's been a part of that.
Yeah.
And I love for you to. It's funny because when I think about you, I remember when we talked about my son coming to play for you at Vandy, and I'm like, hey, he's a great athlete. He struggles with things. Still a teenager.
Yeah.
Still a teenager. And you were like, man, I'm super excited to have him on the part of the team. And I will tell you, going into his third year, all the things you said, like I've watched him get up at 4:30 in the morning. Multiple times I've watched him do the hard stuff. And it's been a real transformation of, like, as a parent looking at it. And I wasn't there to see all of it, but you've had a front row seat to it. I'd love for you to maybe just talk about Ty for just 2 seconds.
I mean, I'd celebrate Ty. I mean, I think sometimes every kid needs to be seen. Everyone needs to be coached. Everyone needs to have a sense of belonging. And when you feel like you belong to something, you'll go a little further in pursuit of the team mission. Again, the mission's winning. And so you realize once you belong that it's your actions and behaviors that really strengthen the whole of who we are. And I mean, Ty, no one knows their son better than you do, but I mean, he came in and such a great guy, such a great athlete and a bright spot. And yet just like every 17, 18-year-old, I mean, God, I needed to grow, and just to see the ground he's covered. Again, this would be an example of just the joy I get from watching young men grow into men. And to share that experience with parents, because when you're a parent, you deliver your life's investment. And look, I mean, inevitably there are mistakes and there are hard parts. And we're not perfect, but the common thread in our locker room is that our players are all sons. They're all sons. They all come from a community, and we are to treat them as such. But Ty's growth as a player, Ty's growth as a person, Ty's growth as a teammate, I mean, he becomes this just incredible bright spot in our program in a short time, because I think he's seen, he belongs, and he contributes, and now he's got ownership stake in what we're doing.
Yeah, so much so. What was the parting of
we parted the Red Seas today. I mean, he's recovering from injury, so he was doing the best he could to work over today from the pit, and And as a team, you know, we turned and honored him, applauded him, parted the Red Sea. He got the front seat, and we went our post-practice meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Man, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for all the stories and everything you shared. Excited for this coming season, and appreciate you joining us on the turf.
Well, thanks for having me. And I'll tell you, like it's no surprise that not only are you obviously putting great work out with D1, but like a podcast like this where, you know, your curiosity, your passion becomes a great point of education and a chance for other people to explore. I just applaud that, and I appreciate you involving me.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thanks.